Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, our Lunch and Learn this month. For those who are not familiar with me, my name is Maya, and I'm the Senior HR Consultant at H2R and your host for today. As you can see, you have been muted. So if you have questions, please use our Q&A box, or you can type your questions in the chat box at any time. We have one speaker today. Please welcome Vince Bowry from Aluxy. Aluxy is an AI-powered LMS, and it enables organizations to deliver immersive training by fostering continuous learning. We are super proud to have formed a partnership with them. And Vince is here to talk to us how gamified learning not only boosts engagement, but sharpens decision-making and helps organizations identify and develop future leaders. So seeing that we have a packed agenda and Vince is ready to present and share. Vince, are you ready?
Always ready. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, take it away.
All right. Thank you for the warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. As Maya said, my name is Vince Bowry, and I am the Chief Revenue Officer here at Aluxy. Hey, you know what? Our goal here is to have, we're going to learn about gamified learning, but we also want to have an interactive learning session. So if you do have questions or concerns, if something doesn't make any sense, or if you just want to dive a little bit deeper into a topic, don't be a stranger, don't be shy, throw something in the chat, raise your hand, and let's have a really engaging time together, okay? So as I said, my name is Vince Bowry. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Aluxy. For the last 20 years, my goodness, I'm aging myself. For the last 20 years of my career, I've been working and partnering with HR and L&D and executive teams to really drive organizational growth through learning, leadership development, as well as digital transformation. So since around 2006, I've collaborated with HR leaders, first as a recruiter, and then moving into learning technology to help align people development strategies with measurable business outcomes. So a little bit about us, Aluxy, and please let me know. I hope that you can see my screen, but let's go. We've been around since about 2013, and our specialty is really helping organizations to rethink how they assess, develop, and grow soft skills within their teams. So we started off as a traditional in-class training organization, but COVID hit, and we actually pivoted to develop an LMS as well as gamified learning that offers adaptable, intuitive tools for organizations of all sizes. So today we're going to be exploring a little bit later on our platform that uses AI and gamification to make learning more engaging and more personalized. We support everything from compliance to leadership development all the way to team engagement, and coupled with H2R Businesses solution, our real-time simulations and our data insights really help to uncover employee strengths and identify gaps in their learning and help you to identify potential in employees as well. Just a little bit about us. Last slide that we're going to brag. Second last slide that we're going to brag. We've been working with major organizations such as Via Rail, National Bank of Canada, and TD in the private sector, as well as public sector organizations like the City of Laval, City of Montreal, and many others. And over 255 learners are leveraging our platform. And we're really proud of some of the work that we've done with TD Bank, where we actually created a training for commercial bank executives to explore unconscious bias. And their findings were that that training that we created, the gamified learning, was 4 times more effective than traditional methods. So we're going to have an interactive session today, and I just want to start off just almost with a minds-on activity and get people thinking. When you hear the word gamification, would anyone be willing to give us a definition? Throw it in the chat, or maybe raise their hands. What is gamification when you hear that word?
And you can use the chat box, anyone on the call.
Anyone have a good definition that they do for gamification? Yep, learning by fun. And no using ChatGPT, by the way, for this. Instant rewards for performance. You think of fun. Awesome. Thank you for the answers there. So when we talk about gamification, we're often thinking thinking about crafting and delivering all the fun and engaging elements that are found in games and applying them to real world and productive activities. So this process is what we call human-focused design, as opposed to function-focused design, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. There's four big differentiators between traditional course development and gamified learning, and those are, it really applies to game elements to real-world tasks. So we want to assign elements, if you have young children, or if you're a gamer yourself, elements of the gamification, reward centers, things of that nature to real world tasks. We want to focus on motivation, not just efficiency. So our traditional work framework is, hey, go through module 1 through 30, and we want you to be efficient versus motivating individuals and teams to have success. We also want to transform learning into engaging experiences, and we want to encourage active participation and continuous growth. So gamification, oftentimes we hear about things like points and badges. Hey, we have a leaderboard. We have the ability to give someone 15 points if they completed something. That's part of gamification, but it's not just applying those factors that makes games really engaging. We want to have learning, development, and even recruitment embedded within our best practices. So we're going to go into a little bit around gamification by design. So when I talk about design, I want to talk about function-focused design first. So this is our traditional modularized learning, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just going to give you a differentiator. And the goal is usually to ensure the system works. Users can complete tasks, and whether they want to or not, and they're usually going through some kind of logic that gives them insight into the rules of the organization. So this could be health and safety. This could be an onboarding activity, whatever it may be, but it's more so focused on rules and outcomes. Oftentimes the experience often feels like a checklist. So if you're going through certain modules, even if you do have a quiz or any kind of assessment that's embedded as well, it often still feels like a little bit of a checklist or a form. So users do what's required, and they don't typically have a high level of engagement or emotional investment. So an example of function-focused design may be an online compliance training program that presents 30 slide decks followed by a quiz. It tracks completion and records pass or fail score, but it doesn't maybe make the experience enjoyable and meaningful for the learner. So what we're talking about when we talk about gamification is human-focused design. And the differentiator there is it really prioritizes user engagement, emotional connection, and motivation. So our goal is really to design our games with our users' feelings, autonomy, and experience in mind, making the journey intrinsically rewarding. And we're going to talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards a little bit later on. So the focus on gamification is typically on motivation, creativity, purpose, curiosity, and providing feedback, instantaneous feedback. So we're going to be exploring that a little bit later. And the experience, it feels rewarding. It's almost like you're a mouse getting a little pellet for choosing the right stage of the maze. We want it to be immersive and engaging so that the users want to continue, not just because they have to. So that's a big differentiator. We want the users or the learners to continue with this engagement, not just because they have to, but because they want to. So as an example, I'm going to show you a little bit later on a gamified leadership simulation where learners take the role as a team leader in a crisis scenario, and they have to make time-sensitive decisions. So we're going to be playing that in real time and a little bit later. So I'm going to dive into gamification and behavior. Once again, I said it's not just about points and badges. It really works because it taps into the same core behavioral drivers that we utilize every day. So games are oftentimes built to engage and to motivate, and it borrows from decades of behavioral science. There's a framework that we're going to go through next called the Octilius, I always mispronounce this, framework, and it maps 8 universal motivators. And our goal through the creation of these gamified learning modules is really to drive engagement by tapping into emotional and cognitive triggers. I'm just going to pause here. I know I'm saying a lot to start off our day, but I just want to check in to see if there's any questions so far. All right. So when we look at this framework, it's really divided into 8 core drivers. It's used by top organizations to build powerful employee experiences. So Yu-Kai Chu is a global thought leader on behavioral design, and this framework has been influenced by probably about 1.5 billion people by making learning, work, and engagement more humanistic. So the first part of the framework is having an epic meaning. And what I mean by that is when we're creating these gamified learning modules, and the benefit of them is it makes work feel like a mission. This is when people believe that they're part of something bigger, something important. So think of a new hire who feels like they're joining your organization to help transform lives, not just complete tasks. In learning, this can be triggered by purpose-driven training, programs that connect personal growth to organizational impact. So an example may be launching onboarding with a message from your CEO or highlighting how training supports social responsibility goals. So now they're thinking about, hey, this actually matters. Not this is just a module that I have to go through and complete. This has meaning and purpose for me. The second part of it is really development and accomplishment. Number 2, over there in the left-hand corner. Challenge employees and celebrate their growth. We all love making progress, and this drive really taps into our need to get better, overcome challenges, and feel accomplished. So it's the foundation of the points and badges and leadership development accomplishment. But it's most powerful when learners earn recognition, not just receive it. And I'll repeat that. It's most powerful when people earn it and not just receive it. So an example, if you certify leaders only after they've passed a tough simulation, not just attended a session, that would be showing a development and accomplishment drive. When we talk about empowerment of creativity and feedback, number 3, this driver helps learners to feel engaged when they're solving problems or building something unique. When people can make decisions, get feedback, and try again, they really take ownership over what they're trying to accomplish. And that's why simulations and scenario-based learning and open-ended tasks work so well. An example of this would be a leadership development module that allows users to choose how they would like to handle a conflict by branching outcomes and real-time coaching. Number 4 is ownership and possession. So if they built it, they'll value it. When people feel like they own something, whether it's a project, a profile, or their own learning path, they feel more invested, and don't you as well. So this drive really makes customizing something like a LinkedIn profile or personalizing a dashboard feel more meaningful. So as an example, if we allow employees to build their own learning journey, choosing courses and skills in alignment to doing our typical compliance training, it helps to align with their organizational goals and their personal goals. So we want our employees to take ownership over their learning too. Social influence and relatedness. Number 5 is really, we all know that learning is social. If we could go back to our high school days or even our elementary days, we have an emotional connection to learning as well, and we're wired for connection. So this drive really includes mentorship, recognition, competition, and collaboration. And this is why peer feedback, community forums, and even little friendly rivalry can supercharge learning when we have a social influence. So things like leaderboards and feedback are really important in this framework of gamification. The next, we're going to move on to scarcity and impatience. So when we think about if something is rare, is usually valued highly. So people want what they can't easily get. And this drive uses limited time access or exclusive content to boost engagement. So, if you can increase urgency and commitment within your training modules or training framework, when used ethically, it could have great impacts on the organization. So as an example, you may offer a time-limited leadership masterclass that only opens twice a year for those that are looking at moving into a leadership role in your organization. So unpredictability and curiosity, number 7. Oftentimes, surprise fuels attention. When something happens that's new, it's almost like, hey, we've all watched Netflix series and, hey, why do we continue to episode 2, 3, and 4 when it's time to go to bed? Something surprising at the end of an episode. Now, think about building that into your learning and development framework. Not knowing what's coming next keeps people curious. And this is the same reason why we binge Netflix and check our phones about 50 times a day. If you ever have that app on your phone that tells you how much time you spend on your day, don't use it. It'll haunt your dreams. But in learning, small surprises and rewards can drive consistent engagement for our users and for our learners within our organization. So adding mystery rewards for course milestones or gamifying assessments with surprise bonus rounds is something that we can embed in our best practices as learning and development practitioners. And the last one is really loss and avoidance. So this drive is about avoiding negative outcomes. like losing progress, missing promotion, falling behind peers. That's a huge motivator. So when it's framed positively and transparently, an example may be reminders that a mandatory compliance course must be completed to maintain certification, and that not finishing onboarding will delay system access. Things of that nature will help people to think about loss and avoidance as a motivator for them to complete their coursework. I'm just going to pause there and ask if there's any questions once again. Okay. So when we're diving into the neuroscience, I'm going to go very, very high level. I'm not going to get too deep because we want to play some games, which are actually fun. And understanding these motivators, the neuroscience of engagement is really why some learning sticks. So when you think about the right brain core drivers, it's around emotions, creativity, human connection, and intuition. And these aren't abstract ideas. They're really tied to how our brain is wired. So in our right hemisphere, we have emotional processing, visual, spatial reasoning, empathy, and social awareness, as well as creativity and imagination. And when we activate this part of our brain in our training through storytelling, exploration, and collaboration, we really engage the learners at a deeper level. And the result, they feel something. We want our learners to feel something. And if you're like me, I'll explain this very, very quickly. My first job in high school was in a factory. I think I was given the largest training binder I've seen in my life. It was about 200 pounds, it felt like, and about 500 pages. I was asked to just sit at a desk and read the training and then take a quiz after. Obviously, there's no storytelling, exploration, or collaboration. That was also dating myself, but it was not engaging. So the result, we want someone to feel a connection between the training and themselves and think about a higher purpose, a meaning for that training. How will this help them in their role? How will this make them more efficient? How will this help and benefit the organization? So we really want to focus on that empowerment. When we think about the left brain as some of the core drivers as well, it's more so around short-term action, logical rewards, and measurable momentum. So the left hemisphere of the brain is the engine for logical thinking, sequencing, structure, numerical analysis, and goal tracking. So the left brain core drives are extrinsic motivation. We do something because we expect a reward or want to avoid consequence. So what does my first couple weeks at a new job look like? I want to avoid consequence. I'm going to do all the training because I don't want to get in trouble. But it's a little bit different if I get some kind of reward. Even a small gift card or a point or a badge or whatever it may be may give me some extrinsic motivation to not only complete those tasks on time, but to ensure that they're focused. So that's really the logic behind a lot of leaderboards and deadlines and badges as well. So these motivators are easy to measure and design for, which is why many training programs lean really heavily on this, right? So complete this course, earn a badge. Finish these modules on time and you're compliant. So it really does depend on what industry you're in. So when we talk about gamification across the employee journey, we're going to actually jump into a real-time game in the next couple of minutes, or next couple of seconds, actually. We do believe that our products have efficacy from recruitment all the way to succession planning. So when you're recruiting and hiring, I'm going to show you two games that some organizations are using as part of their recruitment and onboarding hiring practices. And then for development and succession planning, we're also going to move into our crisis readiness game that will give you some insights into how these are built. So let's see here. So I just switched my screen. Can you see a course catalog? Whole bunch of courses. So this is Alexi at a high level. We do have over 50 bilingual synchronous and asynchronous learning modules that are available online. Everything from occupational health and safety, as well as quizzes and synchronous activities as well. Today, we're actually going to focus on our immersive training, which is our gamified learning. So we do have 8 that are available, focusing on workplace harassment, cannabis in the workplace, as well as leadership development. So as I'm going to jump into this game, I'm going to, if you see on my screen here, do you see the key performance indicators on the left-hand side in the blue? Does everyone see that? Awesome. So the way that we've structured our games is to give and provide real-time results to our learners. So did anyone enjoy Choose Your Own Adventure books when they were a kid, when they were younger? turn to page whatever, you either jump across a bridge or get attacked by a troll, whatever it may be. But we've really taken that framework in which you're the hero of the story. And in this story, your key performance indicators will be measured in real time. So our goal isn't to give you a positive or a negative, a pass or a fail. It's to let you know that there are real-time implications and real-time outcomes to the decisions that we make in our organization. And then you'll see at the bottom of the screen, there's also a number of different skills that are developed, such as emotional intelligence, judgment, a number of other tools. What we're doing at the end of this activity, and some of these activities can take from 25 to 45 minutes. The unique thing is our customers on average are completing these 3.7 times voluntarily. So I'll pause on that once again. 3.7 times voluntarily. How many of you are having trouble getting, your teams to just go through the compliance training or whatever it is once or once a year or whatever it may be? So we're finding over 255,000 users are completing these immersive trainings 3.7 times voluntarily. Any idea why they might be so engaged by these learnings? Anyone get thrown in the chat? Any ideas? It's fun. Yeah, right on, Nancy. Fun, real-time feedback, absolutely. Excellent. And those are yep, they are fun and competitive as well. So those are some of the factors that we're going to cover in the next little while. So we have about 40 minutes left. I'm going to go through about 10, 20 minutes of this activity and 10, 20 minutes of another one. I want you all engaged because this is the part of the story where it's going to be a little bit of groupthink, but we're all going to vote on which result we should move forward with. So there will be an A, B, C option where you're going to be given a scenario. There will be an A, B, and C option. And we're going to, majority rules in this case, we're going to go forward with whatever the most popular option is. So I don't know if anyone's an influencer here, but let's get started. So I want to make sure that everyone can hear my screen as well. The screen will basically describe what's going to happen in the game, and then we'll get it started.
To play different roles. Over the course of the simulation, you will be asked to make important decisions that will keep your performance indicators at their current level, or conversely, make them drop. Employees and managers, this is where your challenge begins. Are you ready? To start, we invite you to play the role of Melissa. You have been working for a company specializing in software development for more than 10 years, and the company you work for has around 60 employees. You have an affirmative personality, and you don't let anyone walk all over you. You're talented, very committed, and recently you've been promoted. You now have a department head position. David, one of your colleagues, has been working for the company for 4 years. An ambitious young man, David works hard and wants to quickly work up the company to department head as well. Every Wednesday, there is a work and ideation meeting that you and David have to attend, and you always come to the meeting well prepared. This morning, the whole team takes part in the meeting. Before you've even had a chance to say a word, David interrupts you and asks you a question. His tone is abrupt and you have difficulty answering because he keeps interrupting you. You ask him to let you finish, and in response, he stops talking, rolls his eyes, and gets a scornful look on his face. You continue your presentation, but you feel frustrated. Following this situation, what do you do?
So the basic framework is usually about 2-minute to 5-minute video, explain the situation, then we make a selection. So you continue your presentation, but you feel frustrated. Following this situation, what do we do? Do we A, confront David directly? Hey, who's ever worked with a David first and foremost? I think we all have. I think I've been David before, but I've been the other character as well. But you confront David directly to ask him why he's doing this. You don't know what to do and you talk to a friend. Or C, you decide to talk to your boss because you think it happens too often. Please throw in the chat which decision you think would be the right one, A, B, or C. This is kind of like a cheat code because it's also human learning and development and HR professionals. So A lot of A's so far. All right, let's click A, and please pay close attention to your work climate, employee health, and performance as well. So we're going to choose A to start off with.
A few minutes after the
So you'll see that work climate and employee health dropped. That doesn't mean it was an incorrect answer. That just means that there are repercussions to the to your decision. So the way that the algorithm works, depending on which choice you make, it will change the actual story, or you'll go to different parts of the story through our AI engine and through our algorithms. So that's the basic tenet of the gamification elements. So based on A, let's see what happens next. You'll also actually see a couple of the core skills that were developed. So ability to analyze the situation in judgment, you scored a 1 on that parameter. Let's jump into the next one.
meeting, you're in a very bad mood. You go to David's office to put an end to this situation. You enter his office and get directly to the point. You point out to him that he cut you off constantly in the meeting and that it's happening all the time. You mention that every time you try to express an idea, he interrupts you and systematically rejects all your suggestions with hostility. You say that you're tired of seeing him roll his eyes in an exasperated way. You're about to get angry and tell him that you want more respect from him, when David looks at you in amazement and says he doesn't understand why you're reacting like this. He says he admires your work and finds that you always have good ideas. He says that he thinks you've misunderstood his intention. Finally, David reproaches you for never listening to his questions and for not considering his ideas. You listen to him and end up saying that you expect him to change his attitude. A few days later, the team is all together again, and you have to present an important project that you have worked hard on. You're feeling a little stressed. The meeting begins, and as soon as you start talking, David interrupts to ask you an embarrassing question. What do you do about this situation?
All right, we see that David's at it again. The meeting begins, and as soon as you start talking, David interrupts and asks an embarrassing question. What do you do in the situation? Do we A, get angry in front of everyone? You ask David to be quiet and to let you present your project before asking questions. B, you're frustrated, but you don't say anything. C, you decide that this time you will go talk to your boss about it and you continue your presentation. Let's throw it in the chat. What do we think? Is it A, B, or C? We got one for C. We have two C's, an A, and a B. Does someone want to be the tiebreaker? A little bit of groupthink happens once once we jump into it, right? But let's go with C. That seems to be the most popular so far, okay? Once again, please keep track of the KPIs on the left. There's no right answer, but there are implications to our decision making.
What is harassment? With its many faces, psychological harassment is a sly kind of evil. It can be manifested by hurtful, threatening, defamatory words or gestures. In a workplace, no one is safe from psychological harassment. It can affect all employees, from the warehouseman to the executive. An employee talking to his boss in a rude way and denigrating him can also be psychological harassment. It goes both ways. 5 conditions must be present to conclude that there is a case of psychological harassment. Vexatious conduct, meaning abusive, humiliating, or offensive. Hostile or unwanted words, gestures, or behaviors. The repetitive nature of the actions. The violation of dignity, meaning respect and self-esteem. Or integrity, meaning physical, psychological, or emotional balance. A workplace that has become harmful to the employee. A single serious misconduct can also be considered psychological harassment if it harms the dignity or integrity of the person and has a lasting harmful impact. The following situation.
I'll just pause there for a moment. Throughout that process, you'll see a little bit of the gamification elements. So if you can imagine, oftentimes our customers and our organizations that we collaborate with are using those specific workplace harassment as part of recruitment or as part of onboarding. So let's start with, if we start with the first step of recruitment as the first point of the employee journey, pardon me. Oftentimes, and I've been a recruiter back in the day as well. We know that traditional recruitment methods are very, very challenging to predict job performance and can introduce some unconscious biases within ourselves, right? So the gamified solution, it's simplified, it's interactive, and it really helps to evaluate the real skills of decision making and problem solving and adaptability. So through a lot of these gamified assessments, our customers are finding that instead of asking candidates to describe their skills, or we oftentimes instead put them into a real-time simulation. They're challenged to think and act and to problem solve before they even, move into the role, so that you get some indication of how they make decisions, whether it's on workplace harassment or if you're in maybe a manufacturing facility or any kind of facility, cannabis in the workplace. So whether it's prioritizing tasks or responding to client issues or making fast decisions in a crisis, that's part of the gamification as part of the recruitment process. And we do find some of the stats that we did find is that, around 78% of hiring managers believe that traditional resumes don't reflect the candidate's true potential. I think we all know that. We've known that for years, but that's a really high percentage. Also found that companies using gamified assessments really reduce their cost per hire by up to 24% and their time to hire by 25%. So, making that selection process a little bit more, not only gamified, but having those assessments. And as much as we like Myers-Briggs and some other assessments, the gamified element helps, individuals to actually go through it and to see themselves in these real-time situations versus looking at personality attributes or other factors that aren't necessarily great indicators of an individual's success, depending on what their role is. So gamified pre-hire assessments have been shown to increase employee retention in the first year by up to 36%. Also looking at gamification on the onboarding process, definitely when we have employee onboarding, if it's overly procedural, if it fails to connect with new hires and it just seems like, once again, a bunch of steps that they have to take versus the understanding of it's a journey to get them to develop the skills that they need, it really separates a individual learner from the mission, vision, and values of the organization, and often leads to slower ramp-up times. So with gamification, what we've done for many organizations is really gamify that onboarding process to introduce things like progress tracking, interactive challenges, and the instant feedback that you do see in these games. Really actively involve the new hires in the process from day one. And what we want to do, obviously, is increase their motivation, decrease churn as well, and really improve their knowledge retention. That's one of the challenges is, just because someone completed a module, that does not mean they retained it, and definitely means that they did not master it. But through gamification and the repetition, it really reduces the time to productivity for a lot of organizations. So some stats to think about with gamified onboarding as well, it does increase employee engagement by 60%. So if you're thinking about if you have if you're with an organization where some of the tasks may be repetitive and boring and employee engagement is really important, think about adding these gamified elements to your onboarding process, just to make it a little bit more interactive, and from day one helping those individuals to understand their mission and how important they actually are to the process within their organization, whether it's in manufacturing, construction, whatever it may be. So also a quick stat, 83% of employees who undergo gamified onboarding feel more motivated to complete the training, which is really exciting for us, and that's what we want to get them to do, is feel like they are motivated, they understand the why that we spoke about a little bit earlier, and it will get them engaged a little bit deeper. And companies using gamified onboarding experience up to 50% faster time to productivity. Can you imagine that? 50% faster time to productivity. So that's something that we embed within our best practices. So we're going to move over to a different game now that is more around leadership development and succession planning. So this is our crisis management game. And in this game, you play the CEO of a food production company, LactoFresh. The use case is you're going to be making very intricate decisions that will have an impact on your organization. The computer will explain a little bit more, but as the CEO, it gets reported that a mother accuses your organization of providing their child with salmonella. What do you do? So it's getting out in the media. What are the steps that you take? And this is just quick decision making, crisis intervention. You'll see on the left-hand side, our KPIs have changed because this is more so around leadership development. Customer satisfaction, stock stability, employee commitment are some of the key performance indicators, as well as favorable media coverage and the board of directors' confidence in you. And you'll see the 5 skills that are on the bottom of the left-hand screen. These aren't skills that we decided, hey, you know, these are important. This was found in a report by a Harvard Business Review that indicated the 5 core elements that are the best indicators of leadership success in organizations based on Fortune 500 companies. So we're going to jump into this game as well as another Choose Your Own Adventure. The questions come a lot faster than the last one, and we're going to ask you to stay engaged and to answer some of these questions that we do have coming up. All right, I'm going to get started. Let's make sure that we could hear. Something that I also do want to mention, at the end of this activity, a report is actually generated that gives you and this is a terrible result, but a reading on what your score was in terms of the key indicators. It will also identify which skills were developed the most frequent. So you see quick decision making and communication skills. Something else that we do have with this document or with this program is a coaching document. Because we think, especially in leadership development, we don't want leadership development to be an event, but more so a journey. So depending on how a individual answers, what HR leaders and departmental managers are doing are utilizing this document and identifying which skills need to be developed more frequently in individuals so that we can elevate the skills that are ideal for the organization and push down the skills that are unideal at the end of the day. So we really think about if the score ranges from 5 to 8 in a certain construct, here's some next steps that you could take as a leader to help to coach that individual. So it does come with some coaching documentation as well. So let's go into this use case, hear a little bit about the situation, and jump right into it. We won't get through it because it's a longer activity, but you'll get the sentiment in the next couple of minutes.
Control while navigating Lacto-Fresh through the storm. In order to do so, you will have to make important decisions that could either retain your performance indicators at their current level or cause them to plummet. Throughout this exercise, you will face the real-time impact your decisions will have on these performance indicators, and therefore on your company's odds of getting through the crisis. Are you ready? In the last 24 hours, the media has reported 6 cases of bacterial infections in children across Canada, for which the cause remains unknown. However, in an interview that aired at 7 a.m., the mother of a 2-year-old girl stated that the last thing her daughter ingested before showing what appears to be severe symptoms of food poisoning was a small Lacto-Fresh Yogi-U yogurt. The story is now being broadcasted across the country, and your company is already under fire. It is now 8:15 a.m., and you've assembled your board of directors. What do you do?
All right. So it's 8:15. You see the situation. I don't know if anyone's in media as well as HR, but what are our options? We start Yogi-U test and stop production. We ask that media, social media, government, food regulators, and employees be informed that the situation is under control and that it's being closely monitored. We contact the board of directors to inform them of our action plan. B, we start Yogi-U test. So that's the product, Yogi-U, like like Oikos, I guess. Yogi-U tests, and ask the team to do an internal product recall cost assessment. You ask to wait for all of the results before communicating with the media, or C, you ask that we respectfully refute the mother's accusations. One should wait to know the diagnosis for every reported infection before making any accusations against you. You still start the product recall, cost assessment, and the Yogi-U test. My goodness, that's loud. Anyways, so what would we select, folks? A, B, or C? What are we thinking? What would be the answer that would get the best results? Got one for C. Thanks, Shauna. Oh, we all can't copy Shauna. There we go. There's an A, a B. Let's take a couple more. Another A. Oh, it's getting close. A and C are tied. Can we get one more? B. Oh, all right. We're all tied. A. I think A has it. All right, we'll go with A. Sorry to everyone that chose B and C. Once again, look at the key performance indicators as well as the skills that are developed when we select. So it doesn't mean it was the wrong answer, but we do have some negative impacts of that decision. But what did we actually display? We displayed a lot of different skills: decision-making, communication skills, stress management. Many skills were developed by making that decision. So let's move on in the game.
It's now 9 a.m. Along with your team, you establish a 72-hour plan of action, along with goals to reach every 4 hours. The first steps are the following.
So what should the first steps of our plan be? We should convene the board of directors for an emergency meeting to discuss the possibility of a recall and devise an action plan. We should cancel the management team's trips and events planned for the company by the company in the near future. Monitor news from every media outlet, then start an internal product recall assessment. And we're going to meet again in 4 hours. Or we can send our corporate medical team to the hospital to speed up identifying causes of the girl's condition, then launch an internal product recall impact assessment. Meet when the medical team has made progress. So let's do it again, folks. A, B, or C. We got A, couple A's. All right, lots of A's so far. Let's see what the impact of our decision is. Okay. Sorry. Oops.
At 1 p.m., the little girl, whose mother is the only person blaming you for this unfortunate event, has been hospitalized for 12 hours, and the cause of her poisoning remains unknown. So far, 12 bacterial infection cases have been reported, and the test results won't be out for an additional 8 hours. The VP Finance confirms that the cost of a Yogi U recall is 50% higher than what you expected. What do you decide?
I'm on mute. Sorry. It's risky, but you cannot wait another 8 hours for the test results. You start the recall process right away. B, costs are too high to start the recall process at this stage. It's risky, but we decide to wait for the product test results. Or C, costs are too high to start the recall process at this point, but it's risky to wait another 8 hours for the test results. We ask for a cost and risk assessment of the different possible scenarios. We take into consideration the possibility of the child's health worsening, and the yogurt is the source of the poisoning. Your team has 4 hours to complete an assessment. So what are we thinking? A, B, or C, everyone? Got a couple for C. You'll see here that our key performance indicators are changing, as well as the skills that we're developing will all accumulate at the end of the actual activity. So we'll go with C.
Several of your VPs approve of your decision not to recall the products right away. On the other hand, your VP Communications warns you of the potential consequences if the yogurt are found to be contaminated and LactoFresh has not proactively managed the situation. Your VP Legal adds to this by discussing the possible lawsuits that could be filed following such an eventuality, both by customers and shareholders. Following these interventions, what do you decide?
All right. And this is the last one we'll do because it's a long activity, but our VP Legal adds to this by discussing the possible lawsuits. What do we decide? A, we continue discussions with our team and decide to stand by our decision to wait for the test results. Nevertheless, we order the number of people working on the testing to be doubled. B, we recall, our recalling is still feeling hasty. We reiterate to our team that they should wait and then contact the board of directors to ask for their opinion. Or C, you finally decide to recall the products and give your VPs 3 hours to create a detailed plan of what to take into account for the recall. We arrange a press conference to notify the public about the recall. So what are we thinking, folks? This is the last one we'll do for this part. We got a couple A's and a C. Another A. All right, we're going to go with A then. So once again, pay attention to the KPIs. So only employee commitment moved down. So at the end of this activity, what will happen is every individual will receive basically a report of their actual indicators, how they performed on all of those different constructs. So it'll give the original value and then how they ended up. As well, a coaching document is produced, and this is a downloadable document for crisis management. We do have this for several of our resources. And this is actually embedded right within the platform that actually explains the different constructs that are being measured by this by the game, and gives some insight into how someone performed in decision making, crisis management, team mobilization, all of those 5 constructs. So this is really that continuous journey of helping to build that person's capacity and help them to understand what further learning can take place. So where this really lives, where these resources really live is in that, leadership development side of the gamification, and part of the employee journey. So, hopefully, oftentimes leadership development, we know how much it costs to get a mentor, how much it costs to have a coach. Even if it's an internal individual within your team, mentorship and coaching is very expensive, and oftentimes that person is obviously learning some good habits, but also learning at times the bad habits of a mentor as well. So something that we do to prepare future leaders is to give them real world situations such as the one that you saw that has high pressure decision making. So this is one that is made out of the box. We've custom designed these for other organizations and banking and insurance and construction and manufacturing as well. So for that gamified solution, it really improves critical thinking. Which is what we want to do. We want to develop emotional intelligence, and we want to develop adaptability within the organization too. We found that leaders trained through gamified simulations retain 4 times more knowledge than those through traditional training. So that's from Deloitte. And then 75% of L&D professionals believe that simulations are the most effective method to build leadership and communication skills. I'm going to jump out of that platform for a quick second just to give you some insight into the administrative side. So in Alexi, something that we really pride ourselves on is understanding who is using the different aspects of the platform. So when you have tens, hundreds, thousands of individuals that are leveraging this platform all at once, you'll be able to, depending on your strategy, if you want to create almost like a learning library, you'll be able to jump in and see how many sessions or which products are the most popular, how many users and how many sessions are in the platform as well. And you can really get very granular with the reports going into an individual user. I'll go into my pretty bad report if I could spell my last name. Let me try that again. There I go. It's not me, sorry. Just took a second to read. Okay, so you can go into the individual users, understand how many times they've utilized the platform as well. And we could set this up in a number of different ways, by groups, by activities, by their own experience. You can give access and remove access to certain products for that individual as well. So you do have that ability to have that holistic tool in the back end to make sure that everything is coherent with what your learning journeys are. So on the Alexi platform, we do have, as I said, a catalog of over 50 immersive learnings. 15 training modules, including aspects such as ergonomic health, prioritizing health and safety, and a number of others. But for the going back into the gamified learning, something that I want to focus on as well is we do have integrations with tons of different applications too. So if this is something that, if you have a core LMS, if you have different elements, we typically are able to add our resources into that framework too. I just want to pause and ask if there's any questions that you do have in regards to gamified learning, immersive learning, or anything of the like before we continue.
And Vince, I just wanted to add that all those courses are part of the H2R library as well. So if anyone's
Absolutely.
interested, they can reach out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any questions for Vince?
Actually, and I'll give a question to the crowd too, actually. Is anyone using any elements of gamified learning or gamification, whether it's like a leaderboard, points and badges, icons, things of that nature? Is anyone using that? We do have an integration with ADP, Kathy. So we've built out an integration with them in the past for the city of Sherbrooke, I believe. So we've done some work with them. But just by maybe raising hands, is anyone using any gamified elements or kind of in that process of exploring how it could work within your organization? As another question as well, like I'm curious, we could talk about gamified learning, but also micro learning. So, moving from the large modularized learning platform to more quick, 30-second to 2-minute videos and quick learning processes. Is anyone on the call utilizing any micro learning elements or have started to that exploration? Is anyone still here? No. Okay, so what we through our partnership with H2R, and thank you, Maja, for setting up this excursion. What we do have is the capacity for us to have a free pilot of any of those learning products for a short time. So if you are interested in getting a little bit deeper into learning about how micro learning and how gamification can impact your organization, definitely contact Maja, contact the H2R team, or contact your representative from H2R. If you are interested in learning a little bit more from me as well, here's my contact information. You can email me at bbowry@alexi.com, or you could follow me on LinkedIn as well. I'm always posting fun and engaging stuff on L&D learning, gamification, and how we're really trying to get learners to want to go through these modules versus force them to complete them. Getting out of that, not necessarily that compliance framework, but adding fun to compliance, if you can imagine, at the end of the day.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Vince. That was awesome, and I hope everyone enjoyed playing and thought it was fun. And as we mentioned, we do have those courses as part of our H2R library. So if you're interested, let us know. And just a quick little update from H2R. So until July 31st, we are offering a free HR assessment. You can submit your request through our website. So if you go to yourh2r.com consultation, make sure that in the comment section you reference Lunch and Learn, and someone from our team will get back to you. And once again, that's just until July 31st. All right. Well, seems like everyone really enjoyed learning about the platform. So thank you, Vince, for joining us and sharing. And we will see everyone next month.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
great rest
Enjoy your
of the
summer.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.